out recently, and I'm very excited to talk about it. So let's see if you're live. Chamau. Facebook just shows me going live like after 3 hours. So, we're just going to start. So, ladies, let's talk about the new food pyramid. I'm very excited about this. So, there's been a new food pyramid just announced, and it's going to be here to stay for the next 5 years. And this pyramid, as soon as I looked at it, it is great for someone whose goal is just to not be overweight. But if you're a woman over 40 and if you have goals to change your body composition, you want less fat, more muscle, you want to tighten up your waist, you don't want that belly fat, and you want to actually look toned, not just smaller, then this food pyramid is not going to cut it. So I know this because I literally lived that food pyramid in my 30s, and it was exactly what I'm going to talk about like today and why it did not work for me. So I was following the new food pyramid that you see now. I wasn't overweight, I was healthy, but I was skinny fat. And all the fat just sat around my midsection, around my belly, despite lifting weights, despite eating clean whole foods and eating high protein. And my body did not change the way that I wanted it to. So I had to change a few key things. And that is how I was able to get more shape, more tone, to get a smaller waistline. And all of this was just because I changed my fuel, okay, the way I ate. So that's what we're going to break down today. And this is not to bash the new food pyramid, okay? I just want to explain why it falls short for women over 40 who want less fat, more muscle, and more tone. So let's talk about first what this whole food pyramid is about. Okay, so let's start with what the recommendations are. So if you haven't seen it, guys, it's literally been inverted from what it was in the past. Okay, I think we had a food pyramid many years ago, and then it changed to like a plate recommendation, and now it's gone back to this food pyramid. So right on the top, okay, it's like an inverted triangle basically. Right on the top, there is protein. So the new recommendation is 0.54 to 0.73 grams per pound of body weight. So if I'm 132 pounds, for example, it recommends like 70 to 95 grams of protein a day. So that is higher than the old baseline, which used to suggest that I should have about 45 grams of protein. Okay, so their protein sources that they've included are meats, and that includes red meat. So there's eggs, there's seafood. I saw like a salmon there, poultry, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds. So this whole part, that's solid. Okay. Also on the top of the pyramid is healthy fats and full fat dairy. So it includes whole fat dairy, which is no added sugar. So there's whole milk, there is cheese, there's yogurt, and that's around 3 servings per day if you're on a 2000 calorie diet. So cheese specifically, it's about 1 to 1.5 ounce per day. So that's like 28 to 40 grams. Okay. Also natural fat sources. So that's olive oil, avocado, nuts, seeds, and then also traditional fats like butter and beef tallow or beef fat, that fat that comes out of beef. Okay. But they still say limit saturated fat to about 10% of daily calories. So just to make this clear, what is saturated fat? That's mainly found in butter, in cheese, in full fat dairy, fatty cuts of meat, and like coconut oil. So it's a little bit confusing. Okay, and we're going to talk about this in a bit. So what else is on the top? Fruit and vegetables, strong recommendation here. So it's about 3 servings of vegetables a day and 2 servings of fruit per day. Non-starchy vegetables are considered like foundational here. This is also solid. Okay, so non-starchy would be like leafy greens, like spinach or kale, for example. And then starchy would be like, potatoes or corn, for example. And they said to keep that low. Now, right at the bottom of the pyramid, we have grains, carbs. So you would have bread, rice, oats. So grains are still recommended. It's about 2 to 4 servings a day. they're just less important than before because the old pyramid had carbs right there on the top. Okay, so whole grains are preferred. So whole wheat flour, oatmeal, brown rice, and refined grains are discouraged. So like white bread, sugary cereals, even like tortillas that are made from refined flour, because they behave like highly processed carbs, basically. And then we've got added sugar and ultra processed foods. And this is where the pyramid gets very firm. And they say that no amount of added sugar is considered healthy, especially for kids. So they recommend no more than 2 teaspoons of sugar per meal of added sugar. So that's about 10 grams. And they also say to limit non nutritive sweeteners. So that would mean things like aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, stevia, sugar alcohols, and we're told to avoid ultra processed foods. So, chips, candy, sugary drinks, or any kind of ready made packaged foods. Lastly, they have a recommendation on alcohol. So, they now recommend reducing alcohol intake, like overall. So, before it used to be 1 glass per day for women and then 2 glasses per day for men. And now it's more like less is better. And they strongly recommend avoiding alcohol if you are pregnant or if you have like a some kind of disorder that you're recovering from, an alcohol use disorder, or if you're on medications, or if you just struggle with your alcohol intake. So let's go into what I actually love about this pyramid. So let's give credit where it's due. So what I love is that the protein recommendations have increased, right? Like for me, it was what 45 grams in the past, and now it's like way higher. So I would actually, it's about 770, I think. Yeah. So although I would push it slightly higher to like 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight if you're like 1/40, and 2 if you're trying to build muscle, because those two situations you need slightly higher protein. So their recommendations, like I said before, are basically for people who just want to stay healthy, not for people who are trying to build muscle. But this protein alone, like this increase alone, is great for women. So it's huge actually for women. So I love this push also for whole foods. I love the strong stance against sugar and ultra processed foods, especially for kids, because I have a 10-year-old girl, and honestly, sugar is just the worst for their development. I mean, it's really bad for us too. So this pyramid is absolutely, in my opinion, going to help people eat better, reduce junk, avoid overeating, and just improve their general health. So there is no argument there from my side. Now, where it breaks down for women over 40 who are trying to build muscle. So this is basically where my personal experience comes in, and then my experience with clients as well comes in. My first issue is that carbs are treated as optional instead of functional. So this pyramid quietly just pushes carbs all the way to the bottom, right to the bottom, right? Especially refined carbs. But what actually happens for many women over 40, including myself, when carbs are too low, you can't train as hard, you don't recover so well, and your stress, your cortisol goes up. And cortisol loves belly fat. Okay, so this is exactly what happened to me, right? In my 30s, I was basically just eating paleo, high healthy fats, fatty meats, and all the healthy fats like avocados and oils and stuff, and pretty much low to no carbs, and mostly just from like vegetables and some fruit. And I was lifting heavy, okay, but my body just held on to fat like it was protecting me from the end of the world, because low carbs plus hard training, it equals to stress for many women. The second issue I have is that muscle is the real insulin generator, okay? So insulin regulator. Okay, so muscle literally just clears glucose from your blood and it improves insulin sensitivity, not cutting carbs. And they've put carbs right at the bottom, which can scare women into demonizing carbs and just completely avoiding carbs. When you have more muscle, okay, your carbs go into your muscle and then it makes it look, sexy and toned. They don't get stored as fat. So just to make it super simple, okay, think of muscle building like you're building a house. So protein would be the bricks that you need to build a house, and carbs, are basically just a tool. They're the tools and the workers that build the house. Because if you just take those bricks and you just drop it on the floor, like there's no building a house, right? So you need the tools, you need the workers to actually build. And without carbs, you cannot push to lift heavier. You're not going to recover properly. Your body just breaks protein for fuel instead of using it to build muscle, and then your stress also goes up. Okay, so all these things are just destructive for muscle growth. So carbs and protein, in my opinion, have an equal importance in muscle building. When I brought my protein and carbs up together, everything changed. Okay, my waist got smaller. I finally lost that muffin top. 40 years, you guys. 40 years. Okay, my legs grew, my butt grew, which I was trying to like grow forever, and my arms finally looked toned. So my third issue is that this high fat plus low carb just did not work for my body. Okay, and this is consistent with me and across many of my clients as well. What I've seen is that high fat diets are generally promoted as hormone friendly, right? But the reality is that hormones don't need high fat. They just need enough calories, stable blood sugar, low stress, and enough cholesterol. And this is contradicting because like you will get overweight basically if you eat too much calories, and fats have the highest calories as compared to protein or carbs. So you place healthy fats like right at the top of the freaking pyramid, okay, like fatty meats or cheese or other kinds of full fat dairy. It just makes it harder to stay at a healthy weight. So it doesn't matter if it's healthy fats, okay? It's still fats, then they all have the highest calories in that group. So I also want to bring up this comment that someone posted on my last video where I was talking about the importance of carbs for muscle building. And I said in the video that if you're doing intense workouts like heavy lifting or high rocks or high intensity training, the kind of fuel that you need for those workouts is basically glucose, and that comes from carbs primarily. And if you're not eating enough carbs, then the next best source for this kind of fuel then comes from amino acids, which is protein, okay, your muscle. And someone put a comment there saying, no, your body will not use muscle for energy. It will use fat for gluconeogenesis. So just to clarify everything, okay, so just to make it very clear, your body prefers carbs as fuel primarily, okay? Then, if your activity is like low intensity, if you're just walking or you're just doing Pilates or something, then it turns to fat for fuel if there are no carbs. Okay, but if you're doing intense workouts, if you're lifting heavy, which you should, okay, in order to build muscle, fat cannot provide that kind of fuel, that fast fuel, glucose. So the next best source is then protein. And we do not want to lose protein, right? Because your workout is a waste, basically. Okay, why are you even training then? Finally, gluconeogenesis is basically a process that your body uses to make glucose when carbs are low. And the main source is from amino acids, okay, from protein, usually from muscle if you're not eating enough protein. It's not what the comment says that it's fat. The body uses fat, and that's gluconeogenesis. So that's wrong. So for me and my clients over 40, basically high fat plus low carb just led to lower energy and more belly fat retention. Okay, just like soft and flat. Who wants a soft, flat body, guys? So when I lowered my fats and I used carbs instead, then my body composition finally changed and I finally got that shape that I wanted. My last issue with the food pyramid is that this dairy, like right at the top, it ignores gut reality for women over 40. So many women over 40 are lactose intolerant. Maybe this is something you're struggling with as well. Dairy sensitive, bloating issues, gut inflammation. Most of my clients can't handle dairy. Okay, so cheese and dairy just being right at the top of the food pyramid is just not realistic for us 40 plus women. Like I cannot handle a lot of dairy as well, and I just eat a very, very small amount. So optional, probably. So why is my approach different? What looks different here? So this is what I think about nutrition for women over 40. The goal is not weight loss. Okay, it's less fat, it's more muscle, because that's what helps us live stronger and better and leaner. So if you're lifting weights, which you should, if you're over 40, this is my muscle pyramid. So right at the top, the most important, I would put lean protein and carbs together. So lean protein, I would include red meat, but like leaner cuts, okay, not what they recommend is higher fatty cuts of meat. Chicken, turkey, those are lean sources again, egg whites, seafood, low fat dairy, and this can be lactose free. Carbs, I would put rice, bread, potatoes, sweet potatoes, or oats, which also provide fiber, super essential for our gut over 40. Protein builds muscle basically, and the carbs allow you to train hard enough to build that muscle. The middle layer, I would put vegetables and some fruit, especially berries, because they are lower in sugar. And these are basically your micronutrients, and they give you all the minerals and vitamins that you need for better health. Again, more fiber and really good for your gut. And the bottom layer, I would put healthy fats. So oils, avocado, nuts, nut butters, still important, still necessary, but they're not at the top. And dairy I would put as optional basically, or it's not required. So why this works better over 40? Because this approach means that your workouts can be freaking awesome, okay, better workouts, better recovery, lower stress, and it builds muscle. And muscle basically, as we already said a million times, improves insulin sensitivity, it reduces belly fat, you have more muscle, it shapes your body, and it builds stronger bones as you age. So to end this, the new food pyramid is fine for general health and if you just want to get to a healthy weight. And if you're just walking or you're doing Pilates and that's your main activity, that's fine. But women over 40, you want to build muscle because you want to live better, stronger, leaner. Then you need energy, you need recovery, and carbs are not the enemy, ladies. So that is why my body changed. That's why my clients' bodies change. If you've seen the transformations, not by eating more healthy fats, okay, but just by eating smarter for the goal. So if your goal is muscle building, then this pyramid needs adjusting. And we are all unique. Every client is unique. That's why I have a unique plan for each of them. So if this is something that you're struggling with and you still haven't figured out what you need, there's a link in my description that you can fill out. Let me see if I can help you out, help you get to the shape that you want. Have the best day, ladies. I hope you enjoyed this and found it informational. Catch you next time.